What's up, everybody? I know it's been a long time since I made a video. Life's been crazy. Sorry. So welcome back to GSI Guy, where we talk about anything aviation, mostly with the 7.6, because that's about all I've ever done. So today I'm going to run through a quick video of the IRS, some of the lights that you're going to see, what they mean, and things like that. It's just a quick video to kind of go through and talk about some of those things. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on it. As you can see right now, I am sitting inside of a 767. This is a 767-300. It is a flat panel airplane, or what is called an advanced cockpit airplane, and it has no power on it. As you can tell, everything's dark, even though I'm sitting on a runway. It just makes it easier when I do other videos if I'm already sitting on the runway. But let's go ahead and run through a quick startup. I'm not going to try and do anything by the checklist or anything like that. I'm just going to run through it quick to get power to the airplane so I can show you what we're doing with the IRS itself. Alright, so the first thing I have to do is I've got to figure out what I'm going to use to power. So I'm going to use the APU. Should have done this because it won't work if I don't do this. But I'll turn that on, turn that on. If there's anything that I could say about X-Plane is when it starts from a cold dark cockpit, it definitely starts from cold dark. Everything is off that it normally is on. So I gotta go through and turn these on. Really all I'm trying to do though is that was weird, is figure out some stuff about getting power onto the airplane. But I have the APU starting right now, and at any minute now I should get something pop up out here on the screens to show that I've got power. While it's doing that, I'm going to go ahead and turn on some of this stuff. Not that it's really going to matter. We're not going to talk about any of it except for this up here, but it's just something to pass the time. You can kind of see what X-Plane can give us. Don't want to touch that switch. We'll talk about that in a different video, but I like to call that the resume switch. That's not a good one to hit. Don't care about those. Turn those on. Keep these auto. Packs on the ground, so we can do that. Go ahead and just turn on some air. You'll hear it kick on here. Now, see, here's the thing, is I'm sitting here waiting for the APU to kick on. If you've watched the electric video that I have, you'd realize that it's not going to kick on because I didn't have the battery power switch on. So let's try that again. There, saw the run light flash a couple times, so now it should be running through its bit. And now I should be getting power here in just a minute. Right now I'm running off of battery power, which you can see. Again, these switches at this particular point don't really matter because, well, we're not going to be talking about them. So let me get to where... Alright, so this is what we're going to be talking about. The IRS. What is the IRS? It's a Inertial Reference System, or you have IRS, and then you have IRU, which is an Inertial Reference Unit. So the system's actually made up of the units. So you've got, it's used interchangeably. IRU, IRS doesn't really matter. I mean, if you're a stickler for that kind of thing, maybe. I don't know. There's nothing nice I could probably say about it. Alright, so we got some power. APU's up and running, so we're going to go here to the secondary engine indications. Got that, status. Yep, everything's up the way we need it, so I have power added to the airplane. And I can see that I have power added to the airplane via the bus off lights being extinguished. Okay, so now that I have power added to the airplane, there's some stuff I need to do. In the original checklist, the checklist is going to tell you that you need to spool this up and you need to put in a position. Okay, so you're going to go through the checklist per your airline, and you're going to go to the nav position, and then we're going to see some on DC lights come on. So why do those lights come on? Well, it's pretty self-explanatory, right? It means the aircraft is checking if its DC backup system is working. If it's not working, then it would go to DC fail, which is the light right here below it, and I'll try and show you that here in just a second. So, goes into the align. So there's a few things to know about the align. There's three main reasons why that align light comes on and stays on steady. Okay, so one is during the alignment process. One is going to be during the shutdown process, and the other one is when we go over here to this ATT position. Okay, so those are the only reasons you're really going to see this align light come on and stay steady. Now, if I can use this and not screw it up. There we go. Alright, so I want to bring up my CDU. So this is going to allow me to put in the information for my IRS. So, to align, I have to know where I am, whether that's by GPS, whether that's by last known position, whether that's by a 10-9 chart to where you can run the lat longs, whatever. Maybe it's a gate position. Maybe you fly for somebody who has gate positions, but I'm used to cargo. Cargo doesn't really get gate positions. So, what we're going to do, this doesn't have all the functionality, obviously, of an actual CDU, so we're just going to kind of work through it the best we can. I'm going to go to the init ref page. It's going to give my position initialization, which is where I put in my position for the IRS. In this case, I'm going to use a GPS position, which is this one located here. So I'm going to click, of course my nav database is update. It doesn't update. So I'm going to bring my GPS location down into the scratchpad by using LSK, R4 or 4R, and that's going to bring it down into the scratchpad. Then I'm going to bring it up here to the set IRS position. Boom. Now it's going to start aligning for me. I can check it by this right here. I can go over to the heading, and I can see how long it's going to take to actually align. Now the funny thing is it shows a 6. Normally it shows 7. That's minutes. That's a countdown, obviously. So for an alignment, there's 3 types of alignments that are typically used. One is a normal alignment, which is what I'm doing now. I'm putting in a position and waiting for it to align. Normal alignment takes approximately 7 to 10 minutes, depending on where you are. I could go into the whole thing, and you have to believe that the Earth is round, and you have to believe the Earth spins for this to work. But really, at this point, I'm not going that deep. I'm just going to talk about the lights and what they mean. So we put in the position. 10 minutes later, it aligns, and then what I get after it aligns is this map flag will go away, this attitude flag will go away. I'll have an ADI up here, and I'll have my map, my navigation stuff here, right? So that's when it gets fully aligned. The other 2 types of alignment that are typically used, one is a quick alignment, which generally isn't used in an aircraft that has GPS, mainly because it doesn't need to be. So what that is you put in your last known position, or you put in the gate position, or you put in the reference point to the airport, whatever you do, right? Because if I come over here and I put in a reference point for my example here, I'm sitting at runway 9 in Miami. I can put up Miami right here. This is my reference airport. That's not technically where I'm sitting. I'm sitting at the end of runway 9. But it's a computer, so it doesn't really give everything exact. So 17.4 versus 18.8, so I guess it does give you a little bit better than what I thought it did. But if I use the reference point of the airport, that could be miles away from where I'm sitting because of how big the airport actually is. So when you taxi out to the end of the runway, there's a potential that your airplane and your runway don't match, right? They could be separated. And when that happens, you do a quick alignment. A quick alignment, really all that does is set all of the velocities inside the IRS to 0 and kind of resets all the speeds and everything that the IRS was using to 0, and then it bases everything off of it from there. To do a quick align, I'm not going to do this while it's in the middle of the aligning process, But you click this to the align position, it will open those boxes back up here. I put in my position of where I'm located, and then I go back to the navigation position. That one takes approximately 30 seconds after I go into the navigation position to realign or quick align. So that's easy. Now, the third one, it's not used as often because there's not a lot of people that go into these places, but it's what's called a high latitude alignment. Now, the numbers, are based off of the Big Boeing book. If you've never seen the Big Boeing book for the FMC, I'm sure you can find a copy of it online. I have a copy of it buried somewhere in a hard drive that I may be able to try and share. I'm not really quite sure how that works as far as legalities and copyrights and all that kind of stuff, so I don't want to step on any toes. But inside there, it talks about like 73 degrees north, and then I think it's 73 degrees south latitudes. Anything above those are considered high latitudes. And basically, again, it goes into the whole thing of having to believe that the Earth is round and that it spins. And basing, all of that, how fast the aircraft is moving on the ground, basically. Yeah, that'll be a whole other video. Anyway, it takes approximately 17 minutes. And that's because you're in positions where the aircraft can't sense movement as fast because you're at a high latitude, where you're closer to the poles where the Earth doesn't move as fast. So it takes longer for it to line. But that one can take up to about 17 minutes. And you can tell here we're almost done with this one. It's down to 2 minutes now, and once it clicks off and it fully aligns, then you'll be able to see what it actually does. Okay, so then the other questions are the align light. I talked about the align light being steady and what things happen or what things cause it to come on and be steady. What things cause it to flash? Because you can get an alignment flash, and it'll sit there and it'll just sit there and blink at you until you do something about it. So there's 3 reasons, 4 if you want to get technical, but we'll go with 3 because those are the 3 I teach, and we're going to go with that. So the 3 reasons are movement during alignment, meaning that I'm moving the airplane in some way, shape, or form. I'm taxiing it, I'm getting towed, whatever, and I'm trying to align the IRSs. Well, if I'm doing that, the accelerometers and the G meters inside the IRS can't base the Earth rotation. It can't sense the information it needs because the aircraft is moving. So it flashes and says, basically saying, "Hey, stupid, don't move me while I'm doing this." The second one is going to be no position for 10 minutes. Okay, so if I'm doing this, hey, look at that, now it's aligned. Boom, 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 the align lights went out. But let's say I didn't put in a position, right? 10 minutes. So I go to nav, 10 minutes goes by because I get distracted by the loadmaster or flight attendant or whatever kind of airplane you're on. 10 minutes goes by and there's no information in it. It'll flash basically telling you I need a position to be able to figure out where we are. So that one's easy to fix. You just put in a position, done, right? The third one is a bad position. Okay, so a bad position. What's considered a bad position? Some would argue going to Cincinnati, Ohio might be a bad position because they don't want to be there. But others, would say that it's probably a distance that causes it to be a bad position. So, what it's based on? It's based on the last position of where the IRSs thought it was. So, here, for example, it's saying that it thought it was at 18.8. And that's where it shut down at. And when we realigned it, yep, it was at 18.8. So I had no issues. Now, if I'm 60 nautical miles off, or 1 degree off, then it's considered a bad position. So 60 nautical miles away, or 1 degree, which is approximately 60 nautical miles, it thinks it's a bad position, and it'll give you a flash of the align light. Okay, so how do you fix that? Well, there's 2 ways to fix that. One is to put in the correct position, and make sure that you put in the correct position. Second one is to override it. This is the only one of those three that can be overridden. So when you override it, basically what that means is I'm putting in the same position 3 times. After that third time, boom, it takes it. It says, you know where you are better than I do, and it starts to align off of that position. So this can happen for a couple of reasons. One, let's say the aircraft was under maintenance and they had to replace an IRS, and the IRS came from somewhere that was more than 60 nautical miles away. Happens quite often, really, when you get into the statistics of it. So when that happened, the IRS may have thought that it was in Cincinnati, and now it's in Los Angeles. Well, it's obviously more than 60 nautical miles, so it's going to tell you that the position of Los Angeles is incorrect. So you have to put in the position of Los Angeles 2 more times, and then it'll accept it. Okay? So that's really the main reason as to why you would have to override it. But let's think of it this way. If I'm a cargo pilot, or if I'm an airline pilot, and I'm flying somewhere where it is more than 60 nautical miles, or less than 60 nautical miles away, let's say I'm in LA, and you measure from LA to Ontario, California. So that's 49 miles, roughly. 50 miles. It's within 60, especially straight line distance. It might take you an hour and a half to get there because of traffic in LA, but it's straight line distance. It's less than 60 nautical miles. If you think about Rockford, Illinois versus Chicago, if you think about Wilmington, Ohio versus Cincinnati, you think about Fort Lauderdale versus Miami, all of these places are within 60 nautical miles, or within 1 degree difference of a bad position. So there is a possibility it would take a lot of effort on the pilot's part to incorrectly put it in. But there is a possibility that you could put the information in for another airport that's within 60 nautical miles, and the IRS just take it and accept it. So there is that. That is the big downfall of that third one. So anyway, just to kind of recap, the 3 things that cause that align light to flash is movement during the alignment process, a bad position, which is 60 nautical miles or 1 degree off, and then the third one is the no position within 10 minutes. So those are your 3 reasons as to why that align light flashes. Now, let's talk about the other lights real quick, because I'm sure I'm already boring you with this stuff, because most people don't care about the IRS for that matter. Let me find, okay, here's my indicator lights. So we'll turn on my indicator lights so you can see the whole thing. So I've got an align light. We talked about the on DC. We kind of already talked about it as well. It's just saying that it's either on DC because you have something wrong with your AC system and it's on the DC backup, or that it's doing its check when you first go to the nav position. This next one here was the DC fail. DC fail, self-explanatory in my opinion, but it's a failure of the DC system. That light doesn't really matter as long as I have AC power. The moment I lose AC power, now that light matters. If I don't have a DC backup and I have a DC fail light that's illuminated, that's going to be an issue for that IRS. And then this last one here was a fault light. I don't want to say it's a generic fault light, but it's a fault light that means a fault for numerous things. It could be literally anything. Alright, sorry about that. My daughter decided to walk in while I was recording, so I had to stop for a sec for her. So anyway, going back to the fault light. The fault light is simply a generic fault inside the system. There's something wrong with that particular IRS. It doesn't give anything specific about it. You can try and look it up in your general maintenance manual. It doesn't have anything. You can look it up in the FCOM. 99% of them aren't going to have what that fault light means. It just tells you there is something wrong. You got to give it to maintenance and let them troubleshoot it. That's what's going to have to happen there. Now, the last thing I'll mention, or the last couple things I'll mention, I got this switch here where I can look at my present heading, the winds, present position, and my track and ground speed. Okay, all of these are true. They're all in true, so it's my true track, true ground speed, my true position, the true winds, and the true heading. Oh, that's everything that is here, right? This one, I can look at each IRS and see what it's looking at. If for some reason I have a present position here and one of these, well, you can kind of see how there's a little bit of difference between them. As long as it's not so big of a difference to cause issues, it really doesn't really do anything. These things are old. You got to think it's like 70s, 80s technology. They drift the moment they become aligned. That's why you're not allowed to fly on an IRS by itself under most circumstances under an op spec for more than 6.2 hours because of the drift. Now granted, and that's without land-based nav aids. Now granted, flying over the ocean generally doesn't take longer than that on the North Atlantic. It takes about 4 hours from land-based nav aid to land-based nav aid. It takes about 4 hours. Over the Pacific, on the other hand, you could be away from stuff for quite a long time. So, 6.2 hours, that's all you're allowed to be on these because of drift. However, if you have GPS installed in your airplane, that kind of negates it, right? Alright, last thing is going to be this attitude position. Okay, so the attitude position is kind of a backup to the backup. So, when I come down here and I look, see, I told you the ADI would show up, my navigation stuff would show up, giving me my track and all that kind of thing. That's great. Let's say I have a failure in the IRS. Get rid of this. If I have a failure in the IRS, so what can happen is these screens are going to go blank. I'm going to get the attitude flag here. I'm going to get the map flag here, and I'm not going to get anything. It's going to be messed up. So one thing I can do is I can come over here and I can click the IRS to alternate, which puts me to the center IRS, which I can't see what it's doing, but it should give me my information back, right? So I'm going to just try this. I'm not sure how in-depth X-Plane really gets, but I'm going to turn it off. I'm going to look down here and go, oh crap, no attitude, no map. Go to the IRS, boom, it sends me to the center IRS. That's awesome. I'm actually really surprised that worked as easy as it did. But it sends me right to the center IRS. Now I have the information from the center IRS. Now let's just say I'm having a really bad day and the center IRS craps out on me. Okay. Oh no, now what? Okay, so now alternate doesn't help me because I can't go to the right side. I can only go to the center on the IRS. So now I have this thing called an attitude position where I can go to the attitude position. Should be able to go to the attitude position anyway. Come on. Yep, doing the DC backup. Check. That's great. Figure it out. There it goes. Crap. Let's see. I think I need to. Is it seriously going to go through the whole alignment process again? Okay. So, just so I'm not going to make you sit here for another 10 minutes, go to the attitude position. You're going to have to enter a heading. So whatever your heading is, I think in this case it's 087, enter, and blink, it puts a heading into there. And what it does is it allows me to at least have attitude information. It at least allows me to see, the vertical and to make sure that I'm not upside down and keep the blue spot, on top. However, if you're in the attitude position, you are going to have to put in a heading about every 30 minutes to keep that thing going, to keep it knowing where it is. Okay? So it's kind of a backup to the backup because your actual, backup is the alternate switch. That is your actual backup. Whereas if this fails and this fails, now you go to the attitude position, you put in a heading, and then you get some attitude information. Okay, so again, that's a quick and dirty on the IRS and the lights and all that kind of stuff, the alignments and everything you can do with it. I hope that was helpful. If you have any questions, you can reach out to me at gsiguybrandon@gmail.com. You can also leave a comment on the video, and if you could, I'd really appreciate it if you'd like, subscribe, all of that kind of stuff, and share the video. I know that there are people who fly 7.6s who want to know more information about it, and I'm a trained 7.6 instructor in case anybody forgot. But you can always reach out and ask questions. I'm always happy to answer whatever I can. I may not be the quickest to getting them around to you, but I will get around to you, and I promise. And if I don't know the answer, I know a lot of people that fly this thing. I know a lot of people that know more about it than I do. and I'm always willing to get an answer and get back to you. Outside of that, again, I hope it was helpful, and I'll see you for the next one.